Hello, and welcome to another episode of Yummy Data Science. In this episode, we will talk about pharmacy or Part D claims. Part D is how pharmacy claims are referred through um, by Medicare because the pharmacy program for Medicare is called Part D. And we are going to be using this. We're going to be doing exploratory analysis and creating a, a summarized view of the pharmacy claims that will be helpful to us in later modeling work. And as a refresher, this data has been taken from the synthetic Medicare enrollment, fee for service claims, and prescription drug benefits. And it's from the CMS. And we are talking about Part D event. Drug characteristics, and this data set is so complex that it even has its own data dictionary. So when you're downloading this data, please make sure to download the data dictionary as well. Okay, so I've downloaded the data and now I'm going to use Google Colab to analyze it. So let's get started. So here is my Google Colab environment. And as you can see, I have, in the previous videos, I have given you lots of explanations of the Python code. So I'm not going to repeat, but I'm going to give you a quick summary of what's going on. And more importantly, I'm going to be showing you how I use the Gemini AI to write code for me. And not that I couldn't write it myself or I shouldn't write it myself, but it helps me write it several times faster. So in cell 1, I'm reading, I'm mounting my Google Drive, and you can see I just in my prompt I typed in load my Google Drive, and I did that. And then the import statements and the option statement come from other cells which I collected on top so that it would be cleaner. And now I am reading my pharmacy file. And as before, what I'm doing is I'm putting all the columns of the pharmacy file and their data types into a data frame called call pharmacy. Now I'm going to be looking at it. So as I've talked about before, that Python Pandas gives you a very nice, handy little tool to look at it. You can double click on the spreadsheet and then you can get an interactive version. So what I've done is I've gone through this and I've come up with and I've looked at the data. So with the head functionality, and what I have done is written out what fields are important. So I'll go over that. So PDE ID, it's an ID. Think of it as a claim ID for prescriptions. BENE ID, we have seen before, it's a beneficiary ID. Prescriber ID is the prescriber NPI, and this is very useful because it tells you who prescribed it. Service date is the date of prescription. Then prod service ID is the NDC code in the 11-digit format. And recall that the FDA, which maintains the NDC set of codes, that has it in its 10-digit format. And then we also have a quantity dispensed, how much of the medicine was given, how many days supplies that constitute, what is the number of the drug fill. Usually you get 2 or 3 drug fills, so it will say that. And you can see this information on the bottle if whenever you pick up a prescription, you can see that. And then total RxCST amount is the total Part D cost. The pharmacy service type is the type of pharmacy, and we'll work with this field once we get going. So one thing I was curious about is because this has many columns, what I wanted to do is see if if my prompt would work when I referred to the previous cell, and it did indeed. So in my prompt, I'm saying filter pharmacy for the columns mentioned in the above cell. You can see I've written this out, so it read it. It is a large language model after all, so it's not surprising that it did it. successfully. And then it said, okay, columns to keep. And then I copied and pasted some code from prior setting files so that I can format BeneID as string and read the service date correctly, um, and get the year from the service date. So then one more thing I was curious as I was checking my data is the PDE ID. Is that a unique thing or can it occur more than once? So I typed that as a prompt and it gave me the simple piece of code which I analyzed. And so every time I generate code with the AI assistant, I make sure I understand it and I make sure that I also tweak it a little bit if I don't understand it. And I feel free to discard it if I don't like what it has generated and replace it with my own or give it a different prompt. So in this here, it was pretty simple. So the PDE IDs do not repeat, which is good. They're unique. Then I wanted to see, so prod serve ID is the NDC code. And I wanted to make sure that the CMS format of 11 was there. And so what I've done is I've done the value counts and I see that it is 11 and there are many that are less than that. So there are many values that seem like they are not um, correct. So what I'm going to do is using the prompt, I said, remove records from pharmacy where the length is less than 11. And it actually did the opposite. It kept them when greater than or equal to, which is correct. Now, seeing this, I don't need the greater than symbol, but that's okay. Uh, Moving ahead, I'm looking at the pharmacy service type code, doing value counts on that, and I'm seeing all of these service type counts. And 01 is community and retail. So I'm making another simplifying decision here. I'm only including the community or retail ones. And this is because the NDC, when I looked at the data, I saw that they were synthetic numbers. So this is not a very good data set for analysis. So what I've done is I've made some simplifying assumptions and I'm just moving through the analytics in order to explain it rather than to actually do any analytics on it. So now I'm at the final part. Um, and I like to put the length, print the length to know how many records I had, how many I lost. So here I lost a lot. I had 342,000 and I went to 49,000. And so now I'm finally ready to create a data frame called prescriptions, which will have BeneID year and the number of RX. And that's going to be the distinct count of NDC by BeneID. So then I've gotten this, and then I looked at it, and the maximum value of num-Rx is 42, which is quite large, but not incredible. And like I said, the NDC codes here seem to be synthetic, so I'm not sure how much value this data has. So I'm not sure that I'll be using it to plug it into my patient modeling. But having said that, now I can output the prescriptions file, encounters file. Thank you for listening.